Hello, and welcome to the Kia's Two Cents podcast, where I, Kia, give you my 2 cents on all things TV, movies, and books, and pretty much whatever I want. This is the Black History Month special, part 2. Now, if you missed part 1, you can go to the description, go to the list, wherever, and check that out. I talk about 10 of some of my favorite Blackity Black movies. And today, I'm going to share with you a list of some of my favorite Blackity Black TV shows. Now, like I said in the first part, this is not a ranking, so in no particular order. And this is also not the only ones that are my favorite. There could be more to this list, but I am just capping myself so I don't go on and on and on for hours and hours and hours. So let's get started. I'm kicking off this list with some of our sitcoms, the ones that I actually do feel like these are my favorite. I'm telling you them in no particular order, so your ranking is your ranking and mine is mine, but this is not mine. The first one is The Cosby Show. And you can feel how you feel about that man. It's definitely warranted but him aside, the show is iconic and it definitely did change television. It definitely was a game changer. Like, this was the show that you wanted to be on the same night as, because you knew that a bunch of people were going to be watching The Cosby Show, so you would want them to stick around for yours. Now, for me, the icon was Claire Huxtable. As a little kid, she was definitely someone who I admired to be like in the future. Just the poise, the elegance, the class, but also she would get in her jeans and her sweats, get down and dirty, and she was a lawyer, and she was a really, really good one at that. And I'm glad that we got to see her do her lawyer thing. And just because we didn't see her in the courtroom all that much doesn't mean that we didn't see her as a lawyer a lot during this show. Every single time that she would let the record show, she tapped into that with her family time after time after time. Even that one episode with Theo, when they were trying to figure out what was going on with him and why he got kicked off the team, and they had their own court in the living room. Claire was that person that, probably was the reason why me as a kid thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Obviously, I'm not and will never be, but at least I got to see a black woman as a lawyer as a kid, and that could be something that I could aspire to be as an adult. And that's what this show really gave us. I mean, I know a lot of people thought it was unrealistic. He was a doctor, she was a lawyer, their kids were kind of perfect, even though they definitely were not. I mean, we had Theo and Vanessa and Denise, so definitely not perfect. But, living in their huge New York brownstone, and as unrealistic as it could be, I think that it was not meant to be realistic. I think it was meant to be something to aspire to be in these powerful positions, and to have this loving family that goes through the same things that a lot of families go through. And yeah, there were a lot of corny moments, but it is what it is. It is a sitcom, so that is to be expected. But I think that it meant a lot to see a family like this on television, and they were not shy in highlighting and, dropping things in there, like all of the different HBCU sweaters and schools and things like that we got to see. The music that was played on this show, that you gotta go back and pay attention to that. the guest actors that were on. You know, obviously as a kid, I have no idea, but as an adult, you're like, wow, I remember this person from The Cosby Show. I definitely saw them on The Cosby Show. I mean, Halle Berry, I believe, was on an episode of The Cosby Show. Angela Bassett, even Alicia Keys as a kid was on this show. So, yeah, it was pretty iconic and a huge deal for the culture. And, you know, unfortunately, that man did what he did. And we can acknowledge that it was not good and still look back and say that this show did do a lot and mean a lot. And of course, the next sitcom that I'm going to talk about is A Different World, because if it wasn't for The Cosby Show, we wouldn't have A Different World. And also, if it wasn't for Debbie Allen, then we wouldn't have A Different World seasons 2 through 6. And that we really also need to highlight, maybe more so than ever, because, like, thank you so much, because the first season is the first season, but the rest of the series, that's where it's at. I know people skip it. I like to say, watch it once and never watch it again if that's your prerogative, but it is what it is. The rest of the series is obviously 1,000 times better than the first season, and we all know that. We've seen the interviews and things like that of them talking about it and why season 1 was not good and why the rest was. So shout out to Debbie Allen for doing her thing. But to speak on A Different World, the biggest thing about it is its timelessness. I rewatch it all the time, obviously, and each time I rewatch it, there's something that I see on the show that I'm reminded of, an event or a series of events that are currently happening in our real lives. And in some ways, it's very unfortunate that it is timeless, but in other ways, it's like this is a conversation that would be happening today, and wow that it was happening in the 80s and 90s when this show was on the air, but it is happening now still. And in some ways we can talk about it progressively, like we have progressed beyond this time in the 80s and 90s and the way that they're talking about it then, but it is still happening now, and that might be unfortunate, but you can see the difference in how we are navigating it and talking about it, and the difference in the things that we can now do, because we are in 2026 now and not in 1980 whatever, 1990 whatever. And obviously the show was hilarious, and it also gave us what I would still consider one of the greatest couples ever in Whitley and Dwayne. A lot of conversation happening about them still to this day, 30 plus years later. And I still, if you don't know, call them the blueprint for every meant to be couple that exists. I think that their storyline happened perfectly the way it should for a meant to be couple. I mean, obviously they had their ups and downs and things happened that we did not like, but in the end they came together, they got themselves together to be able to be together and lived happily ever after. And can't talk about the show without saying that it's coming back. We are getting what those people are calling a sequel series to the show, where we are now seeing the offspring of Dwayne and Whitley entering, well, I don't know if she's a freshman, but going to Hillman College and experiencing it in, I don't know when it's going to come out, so in this modern age. And I think that this is super necessary, because we are losing our media that focuses on young adults, especially when they're in college. The shows that focus on college are too few and far between, especially the ones that focus on our people. And I'm also very happy because those who were involved in the original show have come back to work on this one, which gives me lots of hope. As I've said multiple times in the past, if you haven't seen those videos, you can check them out. But again, I have lots of hope that they are going to get it right, because it's the same group, maybe not all, but a lot of the same group, including Debbie Allen, who are going to be in the sequel series of A Different World. So, timeless show that, honestly, in my opinion, I think it could have been on the air the entire time in between when it actually ended and now. I think it set itself up to do that, but I am glad that it is coming back, and I hope for the best for the A Different World sequel series. But yeah, that's why, well, one of the reasons why A Different World is on the list. And the third sitcom that I'm going to talk about here is Living Single. Another absolutely hilarious show. And another one focusing on young adults in their late 20s, early 30s, the friend group, friends before friends. We all know that it most definitely is. We have the receipts. But again, shows like this are few and far between now, which is why so many people are rewatching Living Single. It's a great, hilarious show that, again, people are still talking about today. I literally did a whole series on the show like a few years ago on TikTok. So it is one that gets talked about a lot. I saw something on Threads just the other day about who Khadijah should have ended up with. And it wasn't Scooter. That was not my opinion, but that person's opinion. And there was a lot of replies. So this is still current. This is still something that people discuss and talk about. Some people are even discovering it now, which, good for you. Good for you. And we get to see the Black people on the show not just as a group of friends, but we also get to see all of their romantic shenanigans. And the great thing about that is being able to see us be loved on screen and cherished and treated the way that we should be treated, or fighting for to be treated the way that we should be treated. With all of these characters, I mean, you have Sinclair and Overton, who were like very lovey-dovey. We all knew they were going to end up being together. He treats her so well and fawned over her and like yearned for her. And they just have this very cute relationship. You see Khadijah, who had so many love interests on this show. It's like, it is a big deal to see a Black woman be pursued and to see so many people like be romantically attracted to her and want her, and her to just be like, yep, I'm going out on a date with this guy, and then I'm going out with this guy, and then I'm going out with this guy. And it's like, yeah. And even Regine pretty much choosing her suitors and wanting the rich man, pretty much. Like, yes, you deserve it all, go get it. And she did in the end. And even Max and Kyle, and like their, I guess you could call it enemies to lovers relationship, they all were seen as something to be loved. And again, that is a big deal for us, especially Black women, and especially with relationships where both parties are Black, because we don't see that a lot now. We just don't see that a lot now, and it's quite unfortunate. So it is a huge deal that this show was putting that on screen in the 90s. And I will say that if Claire Huxtable was the person that I was like aspiring to be, Max is the person who I actually am. If you know me, you know this to be true, but it also is very good for me as a young person to see a character like Max on television and to be able to relate to her, and for her to not be like asked to change who she is. She's celebrated, she's allowed to be herself, like full on her whole self. You know, she doesn't make herself small for anyone, and pretty much stands firm in that and says it in other words throughout the series sometimes. or just gives off that energy all the time. And that is a big deal. I keep saying that, but it is a big deal to see that, especially in someone who I feel like is very close to me in personality. So Max obviously is my favorite character, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, Living Single, epic show, amazing show. And I'm gonna go rewatch an episode of that soon. And the next television show on my list is in the animated series category, and that show is, maybe you can guess, The Boondocks. Big smile on my face when I mention that show because it's just so good. I haven't seen it in a while, but like, which means I need to rewatch it soon. But it's another hilarious television show, another timeless television show, but also a timely television show. Things have happened recently in the past few years where I've seen people like, y'all remember that Boondocks episode that basically talked about this same thing? You know, like, it's relevant still, and it's a great show. Absolutely hilarious. A quotable show. Like, I remember going back and forth with my sister time and time again quoting this show. Like, when Granddad was like, new shoes, new shoes, new shoes. Like, we did that for everything. Like, not just new shoes, but like anything that fit into the song, we sang it like that. It's a great show that if you haven't seen, you definitely need to watch. So yeah, that's The Boondocks. That is the representation that I have for animated series. We, again, like, don't have a lot of those. And there's nothing wrong with animation. It's not a genre, it's just a medium, so it can be whatever it wants. And this show obviously shows that, because this was not for children. But I still watched it. Well, no, I was an adult to watch it. But anyways, that's The Boondocks. And now for something to represent the drama category of television shows, I decided to choose Queen Sugar. I feel like people don't talk about this show a lot, but for me, it was one of the most beautiful shows that I've ever seen in my entire life. The way that it was shot was pretty immaculate. I mean, there were scenes and moments where I was like, make this a photo because I want to put it on my wall as artwork. I mean, it is artwork, but like, those types of shots, like, I'm like into cinematography and all that kind of stuff, obviously, so I loved all of that. And also, it was really nice seeing Black people lit the way they should be lit in a television show. So kudos to Ava DuVernay, because she was in charge producing this show. So shout out to her. Also, not just the cinematography of the show, but the acting, the performances were amazing. Some of the best that I've seen of all time. I mean, Bianca Lawson was in this show, and I think that her character, she played her so well. I don't think she won a lot or was even nominated for a lot of awards, but she deserved, and so many people in this cast deserve to be nominated and to win like Emmy after Emmy, SAG Award, Golden Globe, whatever award they give out for television for being great. They should have been nominated and won in those categories, because that was the level of work and performance that they were giving for this show. Like, if you haven't seen it, because I know not a lot of people talk about it, so more people need to see it because more people need to be talking about it. For me, will go down as one of the best that I've ever seen, and I'm sure there are people that will agree with me out there. It's kind of like masterpiece level, close to it. I mean, there obviously were things that happened in the plot that many people were not fans of. But when it comes down to the work that was put in other areas, it was fantastic. And it's based off of a book, and I've read the book, and even though it veers off, I'm glad it does, because it has a bit of a better ending than the book. But it's just an amazing show that highlights things that I don't think I've seen before be highlighted, with because this family owns a farm, and it talks a lot about Black farmers and all of the things that they go through. So I hadn't seen anything like that before, and I haven't seen anything like that after. I will say, if you're looking for things that don't involve like racism and oppression and police brutality and all of that, this is not that show. But because it is done by us, it's a little bit better than when it's not. So I'll leave you with that. And the last show on my list for now, well, for this episode, is a drama, and I have a special place in my heart for teen dramas. If you know me, you know that. And so I had to put one on this list, and All American is the only one I think I could put on this list, because I'm pretty sure it's the only one that had a mostly black cast, and even now currently has an all black cast. So yes, and I know, I hear you, I hear what you're saying. I know you have a lot of feelings about this show, whether you watched it and you still watch it, you watch it and you stopped. You can feel all of those things. But I will say that for a show that came out in 2018, for it to still be on the air, even though it's in its final it's about to have its final season, it's 2026. And in between those times were actor strike, writer strike, COVID. All of those things could have taken this show out. The show could have just ended, and we never know what happened to these characters. But they are getting to finish the series in a way, and they know ahead of time, so it's not going to be any kind of like crazy cliffhanger or anything like that, and they can complete the story in a way that they see fit, hopefully. And hopefully it is, good for us fans. But I think that is I think that's major, to have all of those obstacles thrown their way and to still survive. And also, something that I found out recently is the network that it was on got sold. I don't really know what all the correct terms are, but apparently in the contract, they weren't going to sell it to the people they sold it to unless they gave All American another season. And I believe that would have been season 5 or season 6. So to me, that tells me that people really saw a lot of value in this show, whether it was like the cash cow or just, something that they knew a lot of fans wanted to see continue, and they weren't going to let any new ownership stop that from happening. So that is also a big deal. This show that not only has black people in front of the camera, but is showrun by a black woman, all of those things I feel like make it deserving of this list. And even with the plot, you can feel how you feel about that. But when it comes to highlighting things like in mental health, when I sit back and I think about it, I'm like, okay, on this show I got to see a young black man willingly go to therapy, and his therapist was a black man. See 2 of the black women in the cast, well, the main girls in the cast, not be subjected to the strong black woman trope who can just take everything on and never ask for help and can never be vulnerable, and she just has to like lift her head high and take whatever is thrown at her. Like, both of them go through a lot, and both of them seek help. They have therapy, and their therapists that we see on screen are also black women. One of the characters is an addict, and her sponsor that she seeks out is also a black woman. I think that it is really important to see the strength in their asking for help. And to see that and to have it not be them being weak, because, the whole thing with like representation of women on screen and, intersectionality is important. So with some groups of people, being seen as super strong is great, and seeing them as, not needing to be in a relationship and not having a man is great. But when it comes to black women, that is a stereotype, and it is a harmful stereotype, because it just promotes a message that we can take anything and it won't mess with us and it will all be okay. When, like, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to seek out help and to ask for help and to need help and to be vulnerable. On the flip side of it, like, yes, they both end up in relationships and with men, and it's like, that's fine. Like, that's needed. It's a thing that we don't get to see a lot when it comes to black women, because for some reason they don't want to show us as people who are worthy of being loved and wanting a partner, a life partner and a spouse, and being treated our worth, and like literally being called worthy on screen. Those things that seem very small are actually really big when you take a step back and you think about it, especially in like this television landscape, and how, both of them end up with black men. So again, I say we're seeing black love on screen, and even in the current seasons where now pretty much the entire main cast, the entire main cast is black people, and we are again seeing them in relationships because we are worthy of being loved and being treated how we like we're worthy, and knowing our worth and being treated that way. So that is why this show was on this list, because that is what I see in this show, specific plot points aside, I guess. And that is the list that I have for you. Again, I will reiterate that this is not a ranking of any sort. This is not the only shows that I love that are Blackity Black. I just want to make that abundantly clear so y'all don't think that I'm leaving off your faves, because I'm not. I just don't want this episode to be hours upon hours upon hours. So that's why I didn't touch on everything. But that means that you can put in the comments what your favorites were, especially the ones that I didn't include, because they're great shows and we need to continue to talk about them in hopes that we will see more of them on screen and that things don't go in the other direction. So, as always, give me your faves in the comments, whether they're the same as mine or different from mine. I want to hear about it. And if you enjoyed this episode and you are not yet subscribed, definitely subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more of the other episodes that I have coming, any of the other videos that I have coming out. If you didn't catch the first part, make sure you go back and watch that as well. You can also follow me. All of my social medias are in the description box, so check that out and follow me along there for more. And share this with someone who you think would really enjoy it. Share this with someone who never stops talking about their favorite black television shows. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye.